All right, so we are running through the volunteer profiles today. I recognize almost everyone on the call except Alina. I don't know, Alina, if you could let me know in your question. I'd just like to know sort of which database you're working in and where you're coming from. It would be very helpful to me. I like to know everyone that we're working with. I can unmute you as well if you'd like to chat. I'll give you a minute. So everyone else on the call, I think I know you and you know me, so we should be good to go. And I'm trying to think. So Kelly, your database does not have volunteer profiles turned on currently, and I believe that every other person on the call, Halton has volunteer profiles turned on, but you're not using them as far as I'm aware. So, and Lena is from Guelph. Okay, excellent, good. So now I know where you're coming from. So as far as I'm aware, Guelph isn't using volunteer profiles currently. I'm not sure whether you even have them turned on. So this is probably very new to you as well. So we're covering all levels of experience right now, from those like Sharon, who I know you have been using volunteer profiles for some time and have quite a bit of experience in that, and we do have some people on the call who have zero experience. So in order to address that, I am going to review the existing features. It's something that I really try not to do in these sessions unless we need to, but in this case I think we really do need to. So if you haven't seen this PowerPoint that I'm going to be going through today, it is posted on the site. Under the resources area, there's a section called CIOC V3 Development, and it has all the PowerPoints for all of these sessions there. We do try and get them up minimally by the Wednesday before the session. This one was up Thursday morning. I apologize, it was a little late. But it is available to you after the session as a reference if you haven't seen it yet. Okay, so we'll start off with a little bit about what volunteer profiles are for. So volunteer profiles are relatively new. 2009 is when we first introduced them, and really have only been used in a significant way, I would say, for about a year and a bit. So quite a new feature, and that's why a lot of people are still unfamiliar with it. Volunteer profiles provide potential applicants, potential volunteers, the ability to save their search criteria, receive notices by email of new or updated records that match their criteria. It allows them to autofill their application forms so they don't have to type out their name and contact information each time they apply for an opportunity. And it provides them with an ability to review the list of all of the applications that they have made, so they can go back and see an easy list of every application that they have ever filled out in the software using their profile. And they can record a little bit of outcome information along with that that's private to them, including whether the placement was successful and any other general notes that they want to record about that particular application. So that's what volunteer profiles do for the public. What do they do for you, the database managers? They give you access to a lot of statistics about your potential volunteers that you might not otherwise have access to. It tells you how many people have signed up with a profile, when they are signing up, so you can tell, are people mostly accessing my site in September, or are they mostly accessing my site in June? In terms of when they're actually searching for opportunities, it does give you an interesting way of looking at when people are looking. It tells you how many applications were received by people who have profiles. So of people who are signing up looking for opportunities, how many actual applications are they filling out on a month-by-month basis? Lets you see which communities or areas of interest are most commonly desired in your database. So gives you a sense of where people are looking to volunteer and what kinds of opportunities they're looking to volunteer in, what are the most popular areas and types of volunteer opportunities are. And if they provided it, it'll also allow you to see the age groups of the potential volunteers. So you can see, how many seniors versus adults versus teens, etc. So there's a breakdown there that allows you to see what the age groups are, which was something we discussed last week. There's a few other things that staff are able to do. You can under certain conditions, via the email address and other contact information provided by a volunteer profile user. That is under the condition that they agree to be contacted. So you cannot bring up the details of a volunteer profile if that person has not agreed that you can contact them. But if they have, and you can search for their profile, but based on their name, the community, the area of interest they have, whether they're getting notifications of new positions, whether they are active, lots of different types of criteria that you can use in order to find a profile. And for each of those, you can bring up a list of all the applications submitted using that particular profile. I'm going to take a moment now, and we'll actually take a look at some of these features. I'll start off by sort of showing where the volunteer profile stuff appears for the public. So if you have volunteer profiles activated in your database and in your view, that will be the very first thing that appears on your menu. Will be, do you have volunteer profile? Log in now or create a profile. The other place that that will occur is at the time that you're trying to submit an application. It will ask you, do you have volunteer profile? Log in or create a new profile. So if that person has a profile set up, this is a test site. I don't believe I have a profile set up on the test site. So I can create a new profile by entering the same, it's basically the same information that you would enter if you were filling out an application form. And here is where you have the ability to say that the Volunteer Center may review my profile and contact me about potential opportunities. So by checking this box, that person is then giving you access to that profile. Okay, so I'm now going to quickly ask Chris, do you remember to log into your volunteer profile on our local site?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to, because I don't, and I'm on my new computer with no saved passwords, which is fantastic. And I'm going to ask Chris to sign in to his profile, and and of course, this is yeah, it's not going to work. I'm going to have to use the test site. All right, I'm going to go through the whole process. Okay. I'm going to use a not broken copy of the software. CF released. Okay. I'll let that get going, and the web server needs to start up. There we go. And I'm going to have Chris log in now because he apparently knows his password. Okay, he's going to go and retrieve it from his password manager. While he does that, I'm going to bring us over into the staff side of through the same site that he's in.
Okay, so okay, I got it. You can't be logged into both.
Yeah, I have it into the browser.
Okay. So, are you in the login? Okay.
I think that's correct. Okay, so this is what it looks like for a user who signs into their profile. If you have multiple sites in your database, such as Central East, it would list each of the sites for which volunteer profiles had been activated. This is my local computer, so what you're seeing here is a pretty strange address. But the point of this is if you have multiple sites, even if that means you have a special student portal and a regular portal, it would list each of those individually and indicate to you that any of those particular portals in your site all had volunteer profiles activated and provide the link to each one. I have saved criteria under my search profile, which will, in this case, because that's pretty much nothing filled out here. So you can fill in whether or not you want to be notified of new opportunities or updated opportunities. That if you want to provide your date of birth, that if it does age-based matching, you can do that optionally. You can optionally select communities, otherwise it would search all of them. You can optionally suggest dates and times, otherwise it would search all of them. And you can optionally select areas of interest, otherwise, again, it would search all of them. So if I have a search profile like this and I say notify me of new opportunities, it's going to send me every single new opportunity that's added into your database because I don't have any other criteria specified. Once I do set up a search profile, I can click the start a new, or I can click start a new. This is a new search. Should be able to execute the search. Pardon me, it's been a while since I've been in here. You should be able to execute a search on it, and linking to any of these would take you to any of the individual portals. If I've done applications in the past, then my applications is going to show a list of all of those, and I can do the edit outcome that I was referring to earlier. So I can say it was successful, and then it will record my outcome notes about that application. If the application wasn't successful and I don't want it in my list anymore, I can choose to permanently hide that application and it will be removed from my list, so I don't have to keep it in my list. And finally, I have the ability to update my personal information so that I can say, you know, my address has changed, my email has changed, and so on. And I do have the ability to deactivate the profile so that the login will no longer work as well. So that's the basics of what a user gets. And once I'm signed in, if I go to actually fill out an application, see if I can find something here. Go on my broken images. When I do yes, I'd like to volunteer, you can see that it'll automatically fill out whatever contact information I provided in my profile, which in this case I really hadn't provided anything, so all it's going to fill out is my name and my email. If I provided phone or address or other information, it would automatically put that into the application form. So from the perspective of the staff member, they then have access to do searching of volunteer profiles. So here I am in the staff area of what the staff sees when they're doing volunteer profiles. I can search volunteer profiles where the profile user has agreed to share their information and be contacted. So again, this will not bring up all the profiles in the database, only those people who have clicked off that box saying that they are willing to be contacted would come up in this search. You get whatever your search criteria are, you get a list of the names, emails, the number of applications, when the profile was created. If you click on the list of applications, it brings up that from our referral section of the database, right? I can go to referral main menu from here. The list of referrals for that one person, and I can update any of those referrals. I can go back to the profile details of this person and get all the information about them. You can see that this particular application that I'm looking at, new profile at kateandchris.net, is blocked. That means that this person would not be able to sign in using their account unless I unblock them. I'll do more on that later. All right, I have some questions, so I'll go through those now. Okay. Sharon was asking about finding the PowerPoint, so I will take a second here and just show everyone where this is. So from the community.cioc.ca site, you know what? I have a really bad screen resolution right now. I just realized, is anyone having difficulty seeing my screen? Because I can change the resolution. It's small but visible. Okay, I'm going to change it because I'm a bit concerned. This is not what I usually run it at. I apologize, I was late in starting today and not as organized as I would like to be. I hope that's better. Okay. All right. So from the community site, if you click on resources, you'll see down the side CIOC version 3 project documents. And this has the full list of all the sessions numbered in order. So this is session 7, I think, volunteer profiles. That's where you find it. From resources, go into the CIOC version 3 project documents, and it will be listed in order, number 7, volunteer profiles. Okay, Michael is asking about, can gender be added to the volunteer profile? Absolutely, that's something we can add. And one of the things that I have in a later slide talks about adding more things to that profile to allow you to collect some additional information. So we can have a bit of a discussion about what things we might like to add to that. Sharon asks, when someone deactivates their profile, is the profile still included in the stats? Absolutely it is. So the profile can be deactivated either by the user who created the profile, so the potential volunteer can deactivate it from their end, or you can block it from your end. They're two completely separate things. If you block it, they can't unblock it. If they deactivate their profile, they can reactivate it. But in either case, it's absolutely still included in the statistics. Okay. What we may want to add as an add-on to that, Sharon, is an ability to distinguish in your statistics a bit about blocked profiles. If I go to the list of profiles, I'm going to go back right now. Pardon me, volunteer menu, volunteer profiles. You'll notice that we do distinguish between total profiles and active profiles. So if they deactivated it, you would be able to see that in this particular statistic because your total profiles and your active profiles would have a different number. It's blocked that we're missing. So Sharon is indicating perhaps add active, blocked, and inactive. It's blocked that we're missing. So we already have the ability to do a search on active and an ability to see here active versus non-active. The newer feature is the block, and what we don't, which is the one that you can do to them. You can block them, but they can activate and deactivate themselves. So what we don't have, either in our search form or in our profile count, is the block. Okay. Lena wants to see the edit outcome information that they put in about themselves. Okay. So it's time, obviously, to get to the next two slides that are coming up here are things that I'm covering in the next few slides. So I'll go through the next couple of slides that I've got, and then we'll come back to questions. But I think I'll have answers to a lot of what you're saying. All right, so here we go. So one of the things we talked about was that you can only view the details of those users who have agreed to be contacted, but all types of users will still be included in aggregate statistics. Their profiles aren't searchable, but they're still part of the statistical reports that you see down here. So I'll see if I can get one that's a bit more interesting. Here we go. So here's one where I can see the application dates, the modification dates, the age groups, the communities, the areas of interest. So those were the things I was telling you about that you could get some stats on. So even if they said that you can't contact them, even if they're blocked, even if they're inactive, you still can get those demographics out of those profiles. Someone is indicating, I guess it would be Lillian. You can also type volunteer in the search box in the upper right-hand corner and everything volunteer comes up. Oh, okay, sorry. That was Laura saying if you're searching for the project documents, one of the easy ways to find them is to actually type in the search box up here. If you had typed in volunteer profile in the search box, it would be the first result. So if you're ever looking for something on the site and you can't find it, that lovely little search box does a really good job of finding everything. All right, so back on track here. This is talking about the newer ability to have the block and unblock of a volunteer profile. As I'd indicated, a block profile can no longer be used and no one can create a new one with the same email address. So if someone signed up with a volunteer profile, they can't just come along later and create a brand new profile using that same email address. That email address would be permanently blocked for as long as you left that block in on their profile. However, they can still apply manually to positions. So they can still click that, yes, I'd like to volunteer. They just can't use their profile. They won't get any notifications. They can't sign into their profile, nothing like that. It's blocked from their end unless you unblock it. A little bit about in activating volunteer profiles, so anyone who doesn't have them running understands how to make them work. They have to be enabled first in your database, and that involves contacting myself or Chris, and we would turn them on in your database. And once that happens, you also have to turn them on for each public view for which you want them to be available. So just having them activated in your database doesn't make them automatically available to the public. You have to make a very conscious decision to turn them on for each public view that you want to enable them for. So it's a two-step process. When we do turn on volunteer profiles in your database, we can work with you to make sure you're aware of the setup items that you should complete before making your profiles publicly available. That includes, in the general setup, you're going to want to provide a volunteer profile email address. You also should be aware that you can provide a privacy policy and should provide a privacy policy so that people who sign up understand how you're going to use their information and access their information. Things like that we just strongly recommend that you have in place before you actually make these available in public views. The most important of which is going into your general setup and ensuring that you've specified that, pardon me, I'll have to use the test site. That's fine. Always hard to do demos when my local copy is in massive development. Okay, so there's a setting here called email volunteer profile. This is the critical one that you need to make sure that you fill out because this is used to generate those emails for people who sign up to get notifications, and all of the emails that go back and forth around confirming your profile all rely on this email address being in place. So please make sure if you want to activate these for the public that you filled out the default email for volunteer profiles. There's one per database. Okay. It's also important to understand that logged-in staff cannot sign into a volunteer profile. You will not see any of the volunteer profiles if you are signed in. Even if you switch to the public view, you still will not see them. You can't be signed into a volunteer profile and a staff profile and a staff account at the same time. So if you would like to create your own volunteer profile, to test it, to understand how it works, to make sure that notices are going out, make sure you sign out of your own account first, and then you can go and sign into your volunteer profile. Okay. Alina's asking, is there a reason why one will want to block a person's user profile? Misbehavior, basically. It's highly unlikely, but it's something that we put in place to give you a means of protection. Very common for spammers to have automated sign-ups for things, and we have it all the time on the CIOC message board where we get people, even though there's a confirmation process, we still get spammers signed up with accounts to the CIOC message board all the time. It's just a protection for you if you know that someone has signed up illegitimately. It gives you a way to block that access, so they can't make it generate any emails, they can't use it to fill out forms. It's just a level of protection for you, basically. Kelly's asking, can we delete profiles of people? Right now, there's no ability to delete a profile. You can only deactivate it, which they have to do themselves, or block it. But there's no ability currently to delete. The main reason that things don't get deleted in the database in general, if we can avoid it, is it wreaks havoc on your statistics. So if you actually delete that profile, then you'll lose all of the aggregate statistics that came with that profile. So any applications they filled out, anything related to what they have done with that profile, then it goes away if you delete it. So it's a tricky thing. Kelly's asking, what do you do when you hit in the thousands of profiles? There should not be any issue. You could have tens of thousands. That shouldn't cause you any issue. You can have no limit of profiles. You could have 50,000 profiles in there and it should still work. Karina is asking about a password recovery feature for users. Yes, there is a reset password feature. It's all done by email. There's an email confirmation process to ensure that there's some security around access to those profiles. Okay, I got a whole whack of questions here. Okay, give me a moment. I'm going to go through a few here. Got a few here that I'm going to be covering later, so I'm going to leave those. Okay. Michael asked, is spam traffic also counted in the statistics? If someone signs up for a volunteer profile and they are not a legitimate person, it would be part of your statistics. That's not likely to happen to you on a large scale, so it certainly wouldn't give you any kind of great numbers. In particular, because a whole confirmation process has to happen in order for someone to register a profile. They have to initially sign up, an email gets sent to them, they have to follow a link in the email to confirm that email address they provided is legitimate. So because it's a multiple step process and it has to include a valid email address that they can sign into, the chances of you having any significant amount of spammers signing up for profiles is quite low. But yes, fundamentally, anyone who signs up is part of your statistics. Kelly, did I answer your question about the number of profiles? Is there a specific concern that you have about having too many profiles or what that would mean? Because just in terms of the software, that's fine. There's no limit to the number that you can have. There's no restriction in any way. Okay. So Karina, I hope I answered your question about the password recovery feature. There is one. You should really not have to. You should really not have to do any significant intervention in terms of their management of their account. Kelly is asking, she's worried with students when they head off to university. Usually you're asked to keep in touch, but they don't want regular emails. So they have the ability to turn off the notifications anytime. So it's not like registering for a volunteer profile forces them to get emails. They have to explicitly say that they want emails, and at any time they can go in and turn that off. So they're certainly not forced to have emails. And they also, as they say, can deactivate that profile anytime. But the quantity in terms of the software is no issue. I don't know if that answered your question. You can sort of reframe if I haven't really answered your question. Yes. Okay, good. All right. Woo! All these questions. Okay. Alina asked, does the replacement password become expired within an amount of time? Yes. So all of our confirmation emails have an expiry on them. And if that link isn't used within the window of expiry, then it's no good. So 2 weeks, Chris is saying. So yes, there is an expiry. All of the standard, security things that you're used to with any of the common sites these days, if you signed up for Facebook or anything else, all of the, confirmation emails and password reset stuff, it's just like that. Has very similar features to what most people would be used to in any of those common sites. Sharon is indicating that she gets an email, if she's getting an email bounce back from a profile who has set up to that has set up to receive notices, should I block them? you can block them. They wouldn't be able to sign into their account, so their account is basically useless. So yeah, sure, block them. If they provide some other contact information and you want to get in touch with them and say your email's bouncing, you can do that. But certainly blocking is a way to go, because they wouldn't be able to reset their password or do anything else. If they provided an invalid email address, their profile is basically useless unless they know the password and can sign in and change it. But yeah, I would say it's,
if they don't have a valid
email, they're pretty much useless.
Because it won't be flagged and validated.
Yeah. No, but they've already, so this, what Sharon is indicating, they've obviously been able to get in at one time. So this was at one time a valid email, or they wouldn't have been able to set it up to receive notices. So once upon a time, this was a working email address. Otherwise, they would not have been able to set it up to receive notices. But for some reason, that email no longer works. And I would say
the confirmation goes to the new email address. So if they can log in and they want to change their email address, the old email address does not need to work.
Yeah. So they, just as I said, if they know how to get into their account and they know to update it, they can recover it and fix the email address. But if you want to stop the bounces and deactivate it, then yes, you can block it. And obviously, if they've said you can contact them, you can go into their profile and see if they've provided any other contact information. And it would be up to you if you wanted to phone them or do anything else to try and salvage the profile. That would really be up to you. Okay. Sharon is asking, where do you recommend the privacy policy link go? So what you do for a privacy policy, which again is in our, here we are in a general setup. You can see I have the volunteer center organization names. So if you have multiple volunteer centers in your database, you should list them all, or a name for the group of them. It's not a link. The volunteer profile policy you actually type in. So you actually are providing the content of the policy here. And what you put in that is really up to you. I do encourage you to discuss amongst yourselves the kind of content that's appropriate, and that if someone's already done a lot of privacy policy, sharing it is obviously very helpful, but we don't have any particular view on what it is you decide to put in there. Minimally, I think you should be telling people how you plan to access their information, what you intend to do with it, and what the purpose of the volunteer profile is. It's just a respectful thing to do and what people will be expecting to be able to read. But in the end, the content of what you put in that privacy policy is totally up to you. Okay, here we go. When we're registering for a volunteer profile, the user has to type their email address twice for the validity of the address. In the volunteer form, this feature doesn't exist, and I get bounced emails coming from typos. Okay, so what you're saying is in the create new volunteer that we don't have an extra email address confirmation. So that is a tricky one because it's actually what people actually do when you provide the email address confirmation is they copy and paste. So unfortunately, having the double email doesn't actually help that problem because people don't tend to type it in twice most of the time. They tend to type it in once, copy it, and paste it into the second box. So although it's something we could put in, the reality is it's not likely to help. What will happen if that occurs, when they're registering a brand new volunteer profile, if they enter in a completely invalid address, what will happen is for that 2-week period, the period until the registration expires, that profile will exist. But once it expires, if it was never validated, that profile will just go away like it was never there. So it's not a permanent problem. If they give the wrong address, then yes, once you are going to receive a bounce. At the time they try and register with the wrong email address, it's going to bounce. But if they don't do the confirmation process, so Kelly's asking what I mean by expiry. So the process is I sign up, I fill out this form, this contact or create new profile form. What happens is it creates a shell for my new volunteer profile, and it sends me an email. And in that email is a confirmation link. And until I click on that confirmation link, I cannot use that profile. So even though the profile has been created, it cannot be used until that link gets clicked. That special link only works for 2 weeks. If they do not click that link within 2 weeks, that profile goes away as if it was never created. So from the time they first fill out this form, they have 2 weeks to respond to the email that's sent to them with the link. And if they don't respond to it within 2 weeks, their profile will go away, and they would have to start all over again and fill out the form again from scratch. So one time you would get a bounce if they gave a wrong email address because that initial email to them wouldn't reach them. But that's it. That profile will go away because they'll never have the confirmation to click on, and so that process will never be completed. The profile will go away. It will not be in your statistics. It will be gone. One of the things to keep in mind because of spammers is it won't be uncommon for someone to fill out the form in an automated way, like a spam bot with a garbage email address that doesn't work. It'll even potentially have names, like real names, so it can look like a person. But it's not real. And so it will never reach a real person, and you will get a bounce back, but you're getting a bounce back because it's not a real email address, and that person wasn't actually trying to sign up for a volunteer profile. It might not even have been a real person. So that's one thing to keep in mind, unfortunately, is that can happen. And that's the whole reason that we have the confirmation process, is so that you don't get a whole bunch of profiles created that aren't real. You know that if someone has an active volunteer profile, then they have a confirmed address, at least once. The address might stop working in the future, but at the time they signed up, they had a real and legitimate email address. All right, I'm going to keep going with the questions here. Ooh, they just keep coming. All right. Let me go through this. Question, how would the privacy profile appear to folks who log into their profiles? That is tough because I'm not sure that I have anywhere set up to show it. In any of my own test site is broken, obviously, and the public CIOC test site I don't think it doesn't even have.
My release one has a privacy profile.
I don't know if that's working either. I'll try.
The release site should work.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. All right. I'm going to go back to my volunteer profile. Okay, so here where we have the agreement, privacy policy, I agree to allow my information to be used. This would be the volunteer organization name, so that's configured by you, as specified in the privacy policy. And there's my really useless privacy policy. I have a nice privacy policy high. So you will not even see this line if you haven't filled out a privacy policy. So this little block that you see here, privacy profile with the checkbox, that user won't even see this option if you haven't provided a privacy policy. So be aware of that. If you don't see this in your database, you probably haven't filled out a privacy profile yet, and as soon as you put the privacy profile in, then you will see that. Okay, let me bring my questions back up. Okay. Can staff alter volunteer profiles? No. Nope. You cannot have any control over their profile. It's theirs. They own it. So if they want their if they want to stop receiving emails, they need to sign into the profile and turn it off. That's it. And if they've forgotten their password, then they can just have it send them a new one. Because if they're getting emails, then obviously their email is working. So that shouldn't be an issue for them to get a new password. But if all else fails, you can block the entire profile, yes, but then they will not be able to sign in with it at all, and they will not be able to create a new a new volunteer profile either. Basically, that's the end. Once you block them, they'll never again be able to do anything with a volunteer profile with that email address. So you want to not block them if you can avoid it. But fundamentally, that volunteer profile is owned by them, and we really don't want staff to be responsible for their profiles, because that would be a lot of work, especially for those who have 1,000 or more volunteer profiles in their database. Management of that is a lot of extra work. So we really want the users to be operating independently. And
it opens you up to privacy concerns as well. As soon as you have access to be able to edit and if you have access to edit their profile, that implies that you have access to view their profile, and that opens you up to a privacy concern.
Yeah, so it's basically no is the answer. And really having that ability is dangerous. What you want to do if they contact you is tell them how to do it themselves and give them some assistance in modifying their own information rather than you doing it for them. Okay. Karina, is it possible to disable copy and paste? Nope. Can't disable copy and paste. Sites all over the internet have tried. You know, I don't want people to copy my information. No, you can't. No way to stop people from copying and pasting, unfortunately. Okay. Sharon asks, I think I answered, but I'll make sure. If the profile expired and isn't confirmed, is it included in the statistics? Nope. As soon as if it expires and was never activated, it will go away completely. So that entire entry in the database will be gone. Nothing will have ever been attached to it because they won't have been able to do any applications with it or create a search profile or any of those things, because you can't do those things until you've confirmed it. So, okay. So the most that you would ever have that stick around is 2 weeks, and then it's gone, and it will not be in your statistics anymore. Alina is expressing some concern that the confirmation emails are expiring faster than 2 weeks. I haven't heard that, but certainly if you find a user who is complaining that the time that they're given for expiry is not what we're expecting, we would be happy to work with them to confirm the issue. But I haven't had a report yet, not even one report, that the confirmation time was not what we expect it to be. So certainly if we do receive a report on that and there's a concern, we would look into it. Okay. Alina is asking, if they don't check the privacy policy box, will we not have access to their information? Nope, so it's separate. There are two things that they can check. One is the contact, which is always available. As long as they click KCL Custom Software may review my searching profile, it will be checked. The privacy policy one is really there for you to make decisions about how you use their information. So it's really protection for you to make your decisions about how you use the information and how you contact these individuals based on whether or not they've agreed to the privacy profile. But from a software perspective, as long as they say that you can contact them, it says they have said they may review my searching profile and contact me about potential opportunities. So you should assume that if you can access their information, they have agreed that you can look at their searching profile and contact them about potential opportunities. That's it. So they're not agreeing to any other kind of emails or any other kind of contact or anything else or any use of their information unless you specify it in your privacy profile and they also agree to your privacy profile. So that's where you need to be careful. But it's really for your own protection because you do not want to be using their information in a way other than what you say you're going to do. But it will not be blocked to you. As long as they say you can contact them and review their searching profile, then you can contact them and review their searching profile. So they're different things. Okay. Whew. All right, I made it through everything in the list except I have 2 questions which I cover in later slides, so I'm going to come back to those. All right, here we go. All right, what do we need to do? All right, so I have 2 slides on things we know we need to do further with the volunteer profiles. The #1 issue, by far, is that we need to improve our user interface to the public, especially the instructions that the public gets. We really know this. We've done a few little tweaks on the wording, especially the wording of the confirmation emails, because we know that they were confusing and frankly, there really wasn't any time taken to make sure that we had good wording and instructions. All that we put in place was the feature to make it work. So definitely we need more work to make this more user-friendly. We do not want you as the volunteer center or the database manager to have to do a lot of these volunteers to set up their profile. We want it to be easy for them. We don't want them to get confused by the process. So we know that we need to improve the user interface to make that work more smoothly. Next, staff do not have the ability to search on profiles if they haven't agreed to be contacted, but this includes the ability to block. So if they have not said that you can contact them, you also can't block them. You would have to contact us, KCL, to block them for you. That's not good. So we need to come up with some compromise, still giving you the ability to do some critical things like get some good statistics you know, out of application numbers and so on, and sort of get counts about how many people are blocked and how many people are not giving you contact information, you know, basic things that you would like to be able to do searches on, but still respect it when people say they don't want to be contacted and don't want to provide you with that information. If people say they want their information to be private, you don't want to scare them off and have them not willing to have a profile because they don't want to give you their information and they don't want extra emails or whatever the case may be. So we really need to find some kind of a compromise position to allow you to do the things you need to do and still respect those people who said they don't want to be contacted. Okay. For organizations that add a privacy profile after the fact, so you already started using your volunteer profiles with no privacy policy, and all of a sudden, hey, we've got a privacy profile, we're ready to post it. You have no way to tell your existing users, please go and accept the privacy profile. Or if you update the privacy profile, you have no way of saying, you know, please go in and review our privacy profile changed, please accept the new privacy profile. We have nothing in place to deal with changes to the privacy profile right now. So we know that's an issue. We don't have an ability for the users themselves, so the people who have a profile, to easily follow up either to the posting agency or the database manager / volunteer center. So that profile user can't allow the database manager to see the outcome measures they record. So this goes back to a question that, let me see who asked this question. There we go, that Alina had asked about can we see their information about a successful placement? And the answer is no, because right now the only information that they are granting you access to is their searching profile, not their outcome information. And likewise, if you record outcome information on your end, they don't see that. So this is a problem. So we do want people to be able to record some private information. So if they have some personal notes that they want to record for themselves, that can be a good thing and something we want to allow them to do. But in the case that they're willing to share that information with you, we're not giving them any means to do it. We're not giving them a chance to say, share this information with the volunteer center, or so that you get that report of a successful or unsuccessful placement. So that's something that we could definitely work on, so that as long as the volunteer consents and says they're willing to share that information with you, that you would then have access to that for your statistics. And this goes to the other question, there's no ability to poll the users for additional information. So whether that be gender or whether the person is looking for a student opportunity or pretty much anything else you can imagine is missing. So we know that potentially we want more things added to the search form. Do they need to search on suitability information? Maybe they have a hearing impairment and they want to be able to search for opportunities that are suitable for them, etc. We have nothing there to allow any additional information to either be searched or be captured for you for statistical purposes, such as gender, because we don't allow search on gender in our software at the moment. So that's something we're aware of as an issue. Okay, I've got a question. Are the benefits, Alina asks, are the benefits of the volunteer profile told to the volunteers anywhere before they create a profile or even when they create a profile? This goes along to, why we don't have good instructions for volunteer profiles. So, yes, we need to improve that, definitely. All we say right now is when they go to the sign-up form, it says, here's what creating a profile will do for you. That's it. We say the main advantages to them: save time applying for positions, the option to be notified for newer updated positions, and save your search criteria for faster searches. So if you actually enter in search criteria, you'll have a link to easily search that criteria and bring up opportunities. So that's it, though, nothing more. That said, we do have a feature in the software called page messages, which some of you may or may not have used, that allows you to add extra information to any page in the software. So even now, if you wanted to put additional information on this page, or really any page in your site, you can do that through page message setup. You can add whatever text you want to any page in the software. So if you decided that you wanted to have lots of information about setting up a volunteer profile on either the front page of your software or the Create a Profile page or the Yes, I'd Like to Volunteer page or any of those, you can do that from the setup area of the software called Page Messages. You pick the name of the pages that you want your message to display on, and write whatever you want for a message, like literally anything. You can have as much information as you want. It's not an ideal solution, but that's what you can do right now if you want to provide more information. Okay. Michael is asking, is there a standard privacy policy? Unfortunately, there isn't. So it would really be up to you as a group, the volunteer centers, the database users, to share with each other. Hopefully you will do that for any of you who do put in the effort, or you can work together to try and come up with something appropriate. But we don't have anything in terms of CIOC, we don't have anything to offer you for what the content of that privacy policy would be. Okay. I'll keep going. Next, no ability to flag to the posting agency or the database manager when a user updates their contact information. So if I have changed to a new phone, then all my past referrals, my applications that I've submitted are still all going to have my own old phone number. There's no say that, oh, the phone number I entered when I applied for this position was wrong. Here's my new updated phone number. Nothing. So they can update it, but it will only apply to any future applications that they submit. It doesn't flag it to the database manager or the posting agency if they've applied to a position that they've changed their contact information. The main concern that I have with this is that at the minimum, the current contact information should always be used for sending out follow-up emails. So for those who were at our session last week on volunteer referrals, there are built-in means in the software to send follow-up emails about a position application. And at minimum, their email address, it should be using the new email address. It should be getting the most current email address out of the profile and using that. And we're not right now. It's whatever email address was there when they applied for the position is the one that's used. Okay. It would be nice to have an easy-to-access contact form for the volunteer to get in touch with the database manager or the posting agency for an application to follow up. So if I'm looking at my, I'm going to Internet Explorer here. If I'm looking at my application screen, it would be really nice if there was a button I could click to follow up with that organization about that application. If I hadn't heard from them and I wanted to know what was going on, I wanted to make sure that they had received my application, it would be really nice to be able to give them the capacity to follow up in that way. Or to send you, as the database manager, a general message if they are having trouble with something, it's not working correctly, they don't understand how something works, they want to get more information from you, they want to know when to come in, you know, to talk to you about whatever issue or get advice from you. Any kind of sort of a general contact form would be a nice addition. That said, if you put a footer on your site with your contact information, hopefully, they do already have an easy access to at least a contact email for your organization. So it's a plus and minus there. We want an easy way to generate an email list in your own email client based on a list of selected profiles. So if you want to send a bulk email out to a whole whack of people to let them know about a special event you're having or a workshop you're having, it would be really nice for you to be able to generate a list of emails to do that kind of a mailing. You will never be able to do that kind of a mailing out of CIOC because it puts us at too high a risk of being labeled a spammer. So the most we could do for you is generate an email message that BCC'd all of these people so that you yourself, through your email client, could send that message out. Unfortunately, it's not an option for us to just give you general blast email capability out of the software. We keep really tight controls over the kind of emails that go out because if we get labeled a spammer, that will affect everybody, all of our members, in a really hugely detrimental way. So we have to use extreme caution about when emails get sent out of CIOC. Okay, I've got some questions. Sharon is indicating that once she posts her privacy policy to her website in the CIOC site, she would be glad to share hers. So sharing that would, I'm sure, be very appreciated. So maybe you can post a message on the message board when you've got that ready. And if everyone on the list would like, I can also send it out to the list of people attending today so that they can have a look at it. Okay, Alina is asking, can we make the find interest box bigger in the profile? We want to completely redo the user interface for find interests and the volunteer profiles. It's terrible. And we have much, much better ways of doing it now than we did back then when we put that together. So anyone who's used any of the new features of the software around searching and adding items know that we can do it in a much better way than in a terrible pop-up window. So we do hope we'll improve that. Sorry, Chris has...
If you log into released, it's working off of my, no, not released, the current. It's working off of mine, and they can see the current version with the redone.
So as part of the redevelopment project, we actually already did a little bit of work on this. Not to say that there isn't still a... we had to change our getting technical, but we had to change our JavaScript library that we use in the software. And as a trickle-down effect, we actually did make some improvements to that already. So Chris is suggesting I go to CIOC.
It's just CIOC.
Just CIOC, okay.
And it'll ask you to log in. It won't look quite as pretty because IE is not very good. But
right, okay.
You can see that the tab, so the one thing, the first thing to notice is the tabs
are
have changed.
different.
If you're in Firefox or IE9 or Chrome or something, all of these borders will be rounded.
Anyway, so if I go to my search profile, it looks much different already. You probably see. I think that
totally
the concern is that the accept and close, if there's a lot of interest, that it goes off the screen. Is that the concern that you were having? Just want to make sure that I really understand what it is that you were concerned about. My impression is that if someone adds a lot of interest, the accept and close is disappearing. Is that right? Alina's saying yes. Okay, good. So I don't have too many that I can add here. This is such a small database. I can't really add
But you
very
can
many.
make this smaller so you can simulate the effect.
Yeah. I'll add as many as I can. I can resize the window. So yeah, they would have to accept. So the issue is this scroll bar, right? That they would have to scroll to see accept and close. So there's two things we can do. In the meantime, we can move accept and close to the top so that it's right up there at the top. And the other thing is we want to get rid of this pop-up entirely and do it in a better way. So hopefully the pop-up is just going to go away as part of what I would say a number of user interface improvements that we need to make to this part of the software. But we can, I mean, there's a few things we can do. We can also make it so that if you don't click accept and close and you just, that it's automatically feeding the information back and you don't have to necessarily click accept and close to accept it. I mean, there's a few different ways we can approach it. Yeah, so yeah, Chris's concern is if you don't click accept and close, then yeah. So Alina, you at least like the current one better than what is there now. That's at least a bit of an improvement. Okay, good, good, good. All right, so we're starting, but definitely we need to improve this in a number of ways. It's the user interface in general in this part of the software needs work, and we know it. So, and that's just one of the places that we want to make better. Okay. All right. Ooh, I've got a big list here. Let me get through. Sharon is asking, can I add a page message to the profile creation page or the main profile page? Any page. Any page in the software, you can add a page message. So I'll quickly show you what page messages look like. I just want to make sure everyone understands what the process looks like. So I'll go into page messages. So I'll call this my new page message. And I'm going to, you can add the view, select the views that you want it to display on. I'm going to put in, what view am I in now?
You're not.
I'm not, I'm in the management. So I'll just put it in a whole bunch.
Data management.
There we go. And then you have to pick the pages. Now, how do you pick the pages? You have to look at in your web address bar. So where I am right now is in admin setup page message edit. So if I want to put that in, I would have to look for a page that said admin setup page edit in order to do that. So that's the way that it works. You have to find a page that has the same address as what you see up top in your address bar.
Control F is your friend.
Yeah, find is your friend, right. So I can say, right, setup page edit. There, I can add it to this page.
No, that's page edit, not message.
Oh, well, my bad. Okay, let's add it to setup page admin, setup page message. There we go. Yes, 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 picky, picky. Say, okay, so there we have, please don't litter. You can type anything you want, HTML, so, and you can add it to as many different pages as you want. So that's a general software feature that you may find useful. Keeping in mind you can do it temporarily. You've got a special project going on, a special workshop that you really want to advertise. You can temporarily add a message to a whole bunch of pages and then take it away when that is over. So it's kind of a neat feature. And you can have more than one message per page as well. Okay. All right. Let me go to the top here. Okay. Alina, we plan on making a little video on how to use the volunteer profile and put it on the main volunteer profile page and would happily share the video with others when it's complete. That would be fantastic, Alina. And if you don't already have, say, a YouTube account or something, we're also happy to put that in our CIOC training account or whatever the case may be. So that's excellent. I'm sure we would really appreciate that. Kelly is asking, is there any way to export the emails to Outlook so that we can do bulk emails? Yes. If you do a search, you can save the search results as an HTML file and open it in Excel. And from Excel, you should be able to get it into Outlook. It's not beautiful, but you could do it. So the short answer is yes, but not easily. We would really like it to be a lot easier for you to get those emails out. So that's part of the what I was saying in the presentation, saying we want to make it easy to generate an email list that you can use in your own email client. So you can do it now, but it's an awful lot of work. What we would like it to be is a lot easier for you to get that list. And Sharon is kindly offering to help Kelly because she does a mail merge through Excel and Word for her mass email, so she can assist you. So thank you, Sharon. All right. Another question from Alina, and I think, you know what? Let me just, I'm done my list, so I'm actually going to unmute everyone now, and then we don't have to. We've got a chatty bunch today, which is excellent. So I'm going to unmute everyone, and everyone can just chat away. Give me a moment here. So I'm unmuting you now. Please be aware. The mute is coming off. For those of you who are not actually connected with a mic or haven't entered in your audio pin, I think it's just Michael, you can still type your question. I will still monitor the question screen, so don't worry if you can't speak. But for those of you who would like to speak to share your thoughts, please let me know. Alina's asked, oh, sorry, yeah, go ahead. Kelly, did you want to go ahead?
Oh, sorry, I didn't know it was me. Yes, I just have a question. We don't have volunteer profiles turned on. Yeah. So is there a way of turning it on that we can play with it first and then the public gets it when we get the new version?
Yes. What you would have to do is create a temporary public view that you didn't tell anyone about.
Oh, okay. Well,
okay.
should we just wait for the new view then to go with the new volunteer profile? Or what's the timeline on it?
Well, I mean, you can have volunteer profiles on any time you want. So you just let me know. But if you want to play around with it before you let the public add it, really the only way to do that is either use our test site, which is available to any of you to use, so you can experiment with what volunteer profiles do. You're welcome to do that. If you don't have a test site login, let me know, and I can make you one. If you want to do it in your own database, really the only way to not let the public see it is to create another public view that you do not tell anybody about temporarily, so that you can turn on volunteer profiles in that temporary public view and play with them, and then get rid of that view and turn them on in your regular view. That's really the only way to do it if you're not comfortable with just turning them on. But if your main concern is making sure that you've done all the steps, you are absolutely welcome to say, I think I'm ready to go. Can you please look at my site and confirm that I have done everything that I'm supposed to do? And I'm happy to go in and look at your setup and make sure that you have your emails in place, you've got your volunteer profile, center name, and all that set up, and make sure that you're good to go. So it's really up to you how you want to handle it. If you
that's not what I'm worried about. I was actually thinking more from a marketing point of view, if we're going to bring it out when we get the new version.
Well, but I mean, so the next release of the software is going to have almost no changes to volunteer profiles. So what we decide upon now, I mean, it could be a year before you get it.
Okay, no, I'll just have it on now then.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, okay.
I would just go ahead, because you know, we don't yet know what changes we're going to make.
And if you're doing whoever was doing a video, if you're wanting to post it on YouTube, remember that at least for the time being, you need to keep your videos under 15 minutes. And if that means that you have to put it into multiple parts, then that's what you should do. Supposedly, YouTube is going to be allowing like unlimited length video uploads, but that is not the case yet. And even though I think that the training account should have done all the right things to be able to upload more than 15-minute videos, we're not there yet.
Oh yeah, the video I was planning on was going to be about, pretty short, something for short attention spans.
Yeah. So for Alina, if you're concerned, if you want that new interface for that volunteer profile page, we can probably, right, Chris? We can patch that back, can we?
Yeah, we should be able to.
Yeah, so we can patch
that would be lovely.
The current version of the software. That shouldn't be any issue, because I don't think we've done anything in that part of the software that needs the other work we're doing. So I'm pretty confident if that's something really important to you, I'm pretty confident that we can put that into the current release of the software without too much difficulty.
Oh, great. I guess so. Just before I start the video, how long do you think that would potentially take?
What do you think, Chris? You want to try and do it this weekend? Or? Yeah, Chris will try and do it this weekend.
Wow, I'm impressed. Awesome.
Well, I mean, the work's done. All we have to do is it's a sort of a process of comparing the two versions of the software and making them match in that one page. So it's not too much work. We just have to test it and make sure that it's functional, because we're making so many very destructive changes to our development copy of the software. We've branched them. What that means is we've completely broken away from the release that all of you are working in, because we want your release to be stable and working and not have a million bugs in it, right? And our version is not stable and not working, and it does have a million bugs in it because we're in the middle of development. So on that one page, though, that page is stable. And I think that we can bring those changes back to your version without causing any problems. I think that will be fine. So we'll check it out this weekend, and If we believe that it will be smooth and no issues, then we'll patch it back.
Great. And just the reason I have so many questions is because this is my actual chief, this is exactly what I've been working on for the last couple of weeks with the volunteer profile.
Right.
So yes, thank you so much for answering so many of my questions.
Oh, no problem. And really, although we're talking about making changes in the long term, if you come across things that are significant issues, we will address them now.
Right.
Like, we're not going to make you, if something is not working properly, we're not going to make you wait a year to have it working properly. So if you run into actual problems, serious issues, please let us know, because we will try and deal with those immediately. We're not going to leave it in a state where it's not functioning effectively. So, you know, you shouldn't have to wait for things. Improvements, yes, you might have to wait for improvements, but if something really isn't working, then we'll fix it.
Great.
Okay.
Kate?
Yeah.
It's Lillian. Can you just recap very briefly what you're going to do for Alina? Sorry, just what you're going to change?
Yeah, certainly. So what we've done, and Karina, I will come right back to your question, I promise. Just give me a moment. What we have done is redone, as part of the redevelopment project, we needed to, as I said, it's technical, but we had to change our JavaScript library. And as a result of that, part of the volunteer profile page got rewritten in this new library. And so it has resulted in some minor user interface improvements. And it's currently not in your release of the software, it's only in our development release of the software. So that the appearance of the tabs here has changed, the appearance of our find interest pop-up box here has changed. It just looks different, sort of minor user interface changes.
So that pop-up box was an entirely new window. If you go to the first tab, Kate, the first tab.
Oh, in Firefox?
No, in...
Where? Oh, sorry, I got you. Sorry. Oh, yes, I get you. First tab here.
Yes, there we go. So we've also changed, so the edit outcome is still a pop-up.
Right, which you can see, this is a lot uglier.
Yeah.
A lot uglier.
The hide confirmation, if you pull up the hide confirmation,
that's the new style.
That's the new style. So I may go and look and see about pushing the edit outcome into that dialogue as well this weekend. I didn't do that because that wasn't mandatory for the particular goal that I was trying to achieve.
Unfortunately, this work wasn't intentionally to improve the user interface. This was, we had to do something else, and while we were at it, it just so happened to make some improvements to the user interface. So that's really all it is. It's nothing significant. It's not changing the functionality. It's just sort of some minor interface improvements.
Kate, it's Sharon. Can I ask you a quick question?
Absolutely.
These pop-ups, do they trigger kind of an alert? Because I know I get pop-ups jumping at me all the time, and my Norton stops them. So are these new pop-ups that you're creating going to trigger anything?
Edit outcome is a real pop-up. That one could get blocked. It's not, your Norton is not going to yell about this. Most of the pop-ups you're going to get yelled at about from your antivirus, there's a reason. It's because there's horrible bad things in those pop-up windows. That's a frequent virus vector, but it's really common for browsers to block pop-up windows. That's very common.
Well, that's what my Norton does. And the sites I'm on are legitimate. They're not kind of spammed or anything. So, and I get those alerts all the time.
Right. So this one, the edit outcome, the old style, would trigger that, but the new style one won't.
Okay.
It's not a real pop-up.
All that's really happening is the style on the page is being changed. It's all within the page. It's not a real pop-up. This isn't a real window. So it's, I don't know how to describe it in a non-technical way. It's not a real window. It's not actually a pop-up window. And that's why it's not going to trigger the problem you're talking about.
Okay.
Which obviously is a very good thing.
The thing that your Norton is trying to prevent is there was this time when there were sites that would do what's called pop-unders, which would create new windows that would be behind your window. And there was a point in time in which you could go to a site and it would have been 100 of them. And it was like a major, major, major problem. And so a lot of the browsers started doing things to prevent that. IE6 was not one of them. And so because there were a lot of people on IE6 is like 12 years old now.
So some of your antivirus companies came along and brought their own pop-up blockers in because the old browsers didn't have them built in. But anyway, the bottom line is you will stop getting those nasty, annoying pop-up messages because these aren't real pop-ups; they're pretend.
Are you getting those messages when you're doing other things in the CIOC site where there's like the, I don't know if you've ever used the Community Finder or the Org Finder. If you do the Org Finder pop-up on when you're creating a new
well, I've forced Norton to accept all pop-ups or from this particular site, so hopefully it remembers it. Usually.
But this will for new visitors to the site. This will eliminate that issue for them. They will not get those alerts from this type of dialogue. It's different. Yeah.
Hi, it's Lillian again, Kate. I think we're running out of time. I don't know if you want to answer that last one of Corinne.
I just want to read Karina's question.
Yeah, Karina, yeah.
Karina's saying, do I need to have a super user account to set up, turn on the public volunteer profile? Yeah. So there's a couple of permissions here that you should be aware of. One, in order to modify your view, you have to be a super user. So in order to turn profiles on for your view or go into the general setup options and add a volunteer profile email and a privacy policy and all of that, you must be a super user to do those. There is another permission specifically about volunteer profiles that allows you to access the volunteer profile admin area. So you should also make sure that only the people that you want to have access to volunteer profiles have that permission, okay? So there's two kinds of permissions there. So the setup stuff, as with almost all the setup stuff in the database, you have to be a super user to do that setup. But accessing the volunteer profile search doesn't require you to be a super user, but you do have to have permission to access that information. It's a different kind of permission. So hopefully that clarifies. Okay, I suddenly got a flurry of questions. Let me go through here. Melina's asking,
Yeah, sorry, that was kind of written badly. If I could just ask that out loud?
Sure.
Okay, wonderful. I was just wondering, on the main user profile page, what you tend to go to, you see my application, my search profile, my personal info.
Yeah.
And what we found was that if someone doesn't have any applications because it's their first time, that all looks blank. It almost looks as if it's not pressable. And they kind of want to press search now because it's all blue and exciting. And I was just kind of wondering if my search profile could be made the first tab.
So what we can do pretty easily, I mean, we can reorder them. If everyone agrees they should be in a different order, absolutely we can do that. But what we can do even more easily than that is two things, that my applications should at least be saying verbally, you know, no current applications or something, and not just nothing.
Or what it is. Yeah.
Two, that we can easily detect if you have no applications and start you off on my search profile. So that if they come in and they have nothing, then in that case, it would be on that tab easily.
That would be good.
That'd be
So
great.
that's an initial start that we should have no trouble doing. Chris, did you have a?
I'm shocked that it doesn't say something if you don't have the application.
Yeah,
Well, it does say something. Mine's blank.
It says nothing, yeah. So I mean, there's so much UI work that has to be done in this area. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, I mean, the real issue is that the only people who use this part of the software are the public, and so they have no idea about where to provide feedback.
Yeah, and plus it was, I mean, really, we just put in the basic framework when we did it, and haven't had any opportunity to go back and make it nicer. So yes, we can fix all these things, and most of them are so easy and very, very small, easy changes. So
Actually, Kate, when you go to My Applications and there's no applications, it actually says no applications in the middle of the window. Sorry,
okay.
I stand corrected.
So minimally what we can do, though, if it's desired, is it's easy for us to detect that there's no applications, and we can have it start at my search profile.
That'd be great.
Tab entirely if there's no application.
Yeah,
You know what? Can we look at something else perhaps as a consideration? Perhaps can we add another tab and have that tab have a message saying what the tabs do and have a bit of an explanation as to what?
Yeah, well, overall, what we part of what I was saying with the needing to improve instructions, we need to have a really, really easy built-in reference for all the stages of the process, so that at any point the user can really easily access instructions and information and not have to go and phone you up and say, I don't understand how this works. That's not good. So,
because the neat thing is once they log back in, wouldn't it be pretty cool if it says, oh, this is how you can make the most of your profile, and kind of just give some helpful tips to them again, because maybe they haven't logged in for a while or whatever.
Yeah, well, and there's even more than that. I mean, honestly, if we're getting fancy, we can be doing things like give you the ability to post announcements that appear in their profile,
and at the
you know,
very
all
least,
kinds
that
of
should
stuff.
include a notice if the privacy profile has been updated.
Yeah.
Or
so, I mean, there's all kinds of really cool stuff we can do with this. We just need to, first of all, document the ideas and really prioritize. Unfortunately, with this, it's so new that there's a lot of just basic stuff we still have to get through. But once you get through the basic stuff, there's all kinds of really neat stuff. Like if you take the notices, the fact that they could, you know, sort of dismiss each of the notices as they read them, so it would clear out of their list, and you know, any kind of personal messages that you might be able to send to them to sort of accrue for them in their like there's all kinds of neat things you can do with it. I mean, Chris has mentioned multiple times, we even have the capacity to make it so that it links it to their Facebook account, so if they sign into their Facebook, it would automatically sign them into their
that'd be great.
I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that we can do. Honestly,
so Kate, in the essence of time and perhaps for the benefit of the people on the call, how do you suggest that we send those ideas to you? Should we post that on the message board, or what do you think?
Any way you want. So you can post them on the message board, which is nice because then everyone sees it and can comment on it. You can also send them to me by email any way you want, and I will jot them down. You know, from the last one, Sharon, I sent out a bunch of follow-up emails just to the group that attended as well, sort of things that came up after the fact, after the session. So as long as everyone who's on the call is comfortable with me doing follow-ups, we can also do follow-ups with this group so that everyone who attended here has the opportunity to participate in any kind of follow-up discussion that happens. And again, I'm happy to do that on the board so that everyone can see whatever way you want to do it, I am okay with.
I think the board would be great, and then people can just keep adding to it, and you have one big long list of ideas.
Yeah, and what we'll do is at minimum, we want them captured, because if you don't get them written down, they'll never get done. So, you know, even if we can't get to all those good ideas now, we want them written down, because as long as they get written down, then eventually we will get to them.
Great. And I was also just wondering, just a quick thing, how long would you like me to wait maybe before creating a little video as to when maybe some of these quick fixes, maybe next week or 2 weeks, or I can wait?
If you send me an email, I will.
I have an email here.
Okay, well, all right, so Kate will give me your email, and I'll let you know how I'm doing.
Wonderful.
I'll send you an email this weekend.
Thank you.
Particularly about the status of those changes.
Great.
Okay, well, thank you very, very much, Kate and Chris. Zelene here again, and thank you everyone for hanging in there. I know we went over a bit over time. And I have one last dumb question. When we post to the board, which board, to the redevelopment or to the volunteer?
I'm fine with you doing it either. I actually think you should stay in the volunteer board because you're going to get more visibility.
Yeah, and it's more in context. That's the right topic. So great. So let's use the board to respond to anything that we spoke about today, or any new great ideas that you have. Anything else at this point then before we sign off?
No, that
Okay,
sounds good. A good session, Kate and Chris.
Chris,
Good session, Kate and Chris.
Chris, yeah, that was a great
Yes.
session.
Oh,
Thank you.
Yeah,
I
very
was
good.
very impressed with the participation in this session. That was excellent. So yeah, and you know what? If you think of something 3 weeks from now or a month from now, I mean, anytime you think of something, mention it. Because keep in mind, outside of this redevelopment, we still accept change requests all the time. You know, 365 days a year. I've been doing this 9 years now. So for 9 years, 365 days a year, we're happy to accept suggestions. So there's no time limit on when you come up with something. So if your volunteers suggest something to you, let us know whenever.
Great.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Muted.
Laura, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Can I end the webinar for all, or are you going to do that?
Yeah,
Or do you
Kate
have to
usually
do
does, but no, go ahead. She made